what's happening? Welcome back to the Bald Perspective. We in here today talking NFL free agency. And not really in the context of who got signed today. Because a lot of your big names went off the board yesterday. A lot of money was given out yesterday in free agency. But what we're getting into today is kind of that conversation of winners and losers. And so I don't know who you like, but you guys know I'm a Ravens fan and I do keep up with the Carolina Panthers. I do keep up with the AFC North because that's the division um, we're in. I do keep up with the NFC South and I do keep up with contending teams. And so when I look around the league yesterday, I think the biggest loser was absolutely the Baltimore Ravens. And that's no knock, man, to the Ravens. But when guys, excuse me for a second, but when it's time for guys to get their money, you really have to go get the money. Whoa, that made me dark. Let's see if we can turn that around. There we go. You really have to go get your money, right? And so a lot of the Baltimore Ravens players who were free agents, meaning specifically the high end free agents, Tyler Linderbaum, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar, Jordan Stout, Draymond Jones, and it seems like there's somebody else that I'm missing. They went and got bags yesterday. And it's really no surprise that the Baltimore Ravens could not keep all of them or even most of them after the Max Crosby trade, which is what I believe caused some of that exit. But nevertheless, man, a lot of talent still left. But I do think the Baltimore Ravens are a worse team today, and that's including the Max Crosby trade than before the tampering period started. And so I think that the Baltimore Ravens have to put their name on a center soon. Uh, all signs point to Jenkins, who was released by the Green Bay Packers. He is a former two-time Pro Bowler, so he does have some credibility. He is a proven player at that center position. And I think the Baltimore Ravens should be looking to lock him up. I don't know in the context of a comparison, him and Tyler Lindenbaum or anything like that, but I do know the dude can play. He has a plus 80 blocking grade. He's a plus run blocker, not in that 80 percentile, but he's a plus run blocker. And so he's available. Now he's going to cost. He's probably going to cost in between that 12 and $15 million deal, especially with Tyler Lindenbaum's deal being so high. It's going to drag some of the other guys' price tag up, especially for center needy teams. But I think 3 years, 45 million. That's a solid deal for a starting level center. And that would put the Baltimore Ravens in a situation where you don't have to immediately go into the draft and pull somebody out. I know that the Baltimore Ravens fan base was high on Corey Bullock last year. And so he's still available for the Baltimore Ravens to lean into. But I don't know the credibility of him being a full time starter. I'm not saying that that is not the way they should go. I just know if you want something proven after what we saw last year from our line, Jenkins probably is the name, followed by Cushionberry, who is a plus run blocking um, center. So two solid options. I think the Baltimore Ravens must be in pursuit of. I think that when you look around who's still available, I think that Juwan Jennings is probably the best wide receiver available. He's not extremely fast or athletic, but he is tough. He is aggressive, and he kind of plays with a little bit of violence, even though You don't think of wide receivers as being violent. He's a big wide receiver, 6'3", 212 pounds, 55 catches last year, over 650 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So not elite numbers, but his impact feels much more than 55 catches and 650 yards. And so I think that he could be a good option for a team who's still looking to fill in and fill out their wide receiver room, especially if you have a young quarterback who is needing somebody who can go and make a play. Looking around the league, Trey Hendrickson is a guy who is still available. Surprising a little bit, especially with some of the other pass rushers getting a deal yesterday, and Jalen Phillips getting a big deal, 4 years, 120 down in Carolina. Seems like Trey Hendrickson would be next up, but Hendrickson is 31 years old, which may be some of the holdup, and he is coming off an injury-plagued season. I still think he's going to get somewhere in that 27 to $33 million range, maybe on a 2-year deal, since he is over 31. So somebody will be able to get a solid player. I think he'll get signed after the league year starts because everybody must be under the NFL salary cap starting tomorrow. And so I believe he'll get snatched up tomorrow. Um, some other wide receivers, man, that kind of catch my attention. You guys let me know what you think. Adebo Samuel. Not the Debo Samuel of his early and mid 20s, but still serviceable, still good hands, still is kind of a do it all wide receiver, still plays with a level of toughness and aggression. I think he would be a good player to plug in on a team who is needing some leadership at that wide receiver position. So keep your eye on Debo Samuel. Fans who need or fans whose team need a wide receiver. Let me see. As I'm thinking about the names that I ran across earlier, mm, cornerback Tariq Woolen is still available. He'll probably be a name that comes off the board tomorrow after everybody gets their salary cap situation straightened out. Now, there are a team with still tons of money, and absolutely cornerbacks have already been signed. And so don't know what Wolin's asking for, but I think that he will go pretty soon. He'll be gone by Friday. That's what I expect. Just like I believe Trey Hendrickson is gone by Friday. Um, some quality players still left for sure. But let's talk about winners. Let's start in the overall winner of free agency and trade right now, I think, is the Los Angeles Rams. And they gave away a lot of money and a lot of draft capital to fix their cornerback room. A team that could put up points but had some trouble late in last year stopping people. And they trade for Trent McDuffie, and then they go out and get another big time corner, and they've solidified what they got going on at corner. And they got those young thoroughbreds up front. And so they went out and fixed exactly what was wrong. And that's the one thing I can say about the Los Angeles Rams. Although they've had success, they've been to 2 Super Bowls, they have not got tired of winning. And one would have thought that they would have taken a step back after losing Aaron Donald, but they've just kept plugging away, right? They moved on from Jalen Ramsey, excuse me, and some of those other players that were along for the Super Bowl ride. And then they just rebuilt their team and just kept moving. And then Matthew Stafford came into last season with an injury, and that didn't stop them. They were still in the final 8. I'm pretty sure they got beat in the divisional round. And I think with locking up their cornerback room, fixing it, they're now in best player available in the draft once again. So shout out to the Rams, Sam Snead and the crew for always being willing to do what is necessary to keep their team competitive. Other winners from yesterday and into today, let me think. I think the New York Giants have gotten better. I think adding a host of Baltimore Ravens players and some other players from around the league has made them better. They added the Baltimore Ravens Pro Bowl punter and Jordan Stout. At least I think he was a Pro Bowler. They added a young tight end who's super talented in Isaiah Likely. And then they also grabbed a player who just knows how to play and make plays and toughness, Darius Washington. So they added several players, and I think they got better yesterday. And they didn't have to give away no draft capital. So shout out to the Giants, man, for doing what's necessary to be competitive. When I think about other moves and other teams, I think the Chicago Bears got better. They were in that Elite Eight last year, and it was some miracle type stuff, some miraculous plays from Caleb Williams that kept them relevant into the playoffs. But nevertheless, they got hot, did their thing. They played solid defense. They ran the ball well. They threw the ball well. They caught the ball well. And they made a move that was surprising, but not surprising. And they moved off of DJ Moore with a trade to the Buffalo Bills. But they have some young players already, wide receivers, who are proving themselves. They have their own draft picks. At least I think they do. They got some draft capital from the Buffalo Bills from the trade. And I think that they're going to be right back at it, right? I don't see a reason why Caleb Williams, after his second season, which he had a decent rookie season, but he didn't have the sophomore slump. He actually stepped up in year two, so he may continue to catapult in year number three. So I think they got better. They did some things along their offensive line. They did a few things to help out their defense, and I think you're going to have to watch out for the Chicago Bears. So I think they got better. When I think about another team in that division, the Detroit Lions got better. I don't remember their moves right offhand, but I know they did add some pieces to their puzzle. Uh, they have some already amazing talent in house at wide receiver, at the running back position. They got a good quarterback. They have an elite level edge rusher, have elite level offensive lineman. At least Penny Sewell is. And so they just added some pieces to that puzzle. So I look for them to take a step forward this year. They took a step back last year, but I look for them to step up next year. That's going to be a tough division out there in that NFC North. Um, Minnesota lost a big piece yesterday, but I think that they can kind of have a little bit of a bounce back season if they add Kyler Murray to their quarterback room and let him compete with JJ McCarthy. I think that will add some credibility to that room. And they didn't get better or worse. Well, yes, they did. They got worse yesterday with losing Jalen Naylor for sure. Green Bay didn't do a whole lot. They just have to hope to get Michael Parsons back healthy. So they're kind of straight across the board. When I jump out to the NFC West, I talked about the Rams. I thought that Seattle pretty much stayed consistent. They lost a couple of players. Um, Kobe Bryant, they lost, I think they lost edge rusher Mafa. I think I pronounced his name correct. I may probably didn't. But nevertheless, I think that they're going to still be right there. I think what the Rams have done has made it a little bit harder for the Seattle Seahawks to do exactly what they did last year, but I don't look for Seattle to fall off. And then you go to the 49ers. The 49ers made a big move yesterday, signing Mike Evans to a 3 year, $60 million deal, which I think spells the end for a guy like a Jawan Jennings. Is it an upgrade, lateral move? I don't know. I don't know. At 32, it's probably just a lateral move, but a guy who's dependable, a guy who's been a 1,000-yard receiver since he came into the league, with 1 year exception, which was last year because of injury. I think that the 49ers are lateral because I've heard some rumors that they might be willing to release Trent Williams because of salary cap implications. He will be a big grab for somebody who needs a tackle. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the 49ers are going to be able to compete in that division like they did last season. When we move around to the NFC East, I think the Philadelphia Eagles stayed lateral, meaning they just went straight across the board. Nothing big yet. I think you will see an AJ Brown move between now and draft night. Draft night seems to make things pop. And so, if a team doesn't see that they're going to be able to get that wide receiver they need or something like that, I think you could see an AJ Brown move. Then I don't foresee a lot happening in Philadelphia as they're trying to maintain some of the guys they're going to have to write big contracts to. I think that, like I mentioned yesterday, the Cowboys, I think, are in the best position. Talked about the Giants earlier, but I think the Cowboys are in the best position to compete. They're going to roll out next year with two high end wide receivers. They have a solid offensive line. They have a quarterback who can deal it, and they have a running back room that is improving. And so they just got to work on their defense. And you got Rashawn Gary and Quentin Williams in the trenches. They should be a good pairing. And then they have their own draft picks, one of which is a top 12 pick, if I remember correctly. I believe they go Falk, the edge rusher Falk, at their pick, because I think that's what they're going to need. But I think it may be the Cowboys year, like I said yesterday. When we jump to the NFC South, I think every team in this division made moves yesterday, spent big money yesterday. We talked about Carolina signing Jalen Phillips. The Atlanta Falcons made several moves all around their team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers made some moves, even after losing Mike Evans. And then the New Orleans Saints signed Travis Etienne and also David Edwards. So every team in this division threw their hat in the ring to compete for that division. I don't know who got better or if anybody, rose above the others, but I think it's going to be a competitive division, especially after what we've seen from day one. And some of these teams are already done spending because they didn't have a lot of money already. So they're going to turn their attention to the draft, and then they're going to look at some post-draft signings, specifically after June 1st signings, which won't count on the cap. When we come back to the AFC and we're looking at winners and losers, uh, I think Buffalo stayed lateral. The Patriots made a couple of moves. Don't know if Draymond Jones moves the needle for them necessarily, but I think he's a good pickup, especially having a relationship with Mike Vrabel already. Miami Dolphins, I think, I think Miami Dolphins improved. Now that sounds ludicrous, but let me explain. I think the Dolphins improved because they stopped waiting on Tua to one, stay healthy, or two, improve. Um, they moved on from some high end contracts. Now they're going to take a huge dead cap hit this year, but they got a quarterback maybe of the future. They have some nice pieces that can support Malik Willis. They have Devin Achan in the backfield. They still have Jalen Waddle, and they have their own draft capital. I still expect rumors to start coming up about Jalen Waddle as they are on this total rebuild. So we'll see. We'll see. Um, I think the Jets got better, but when you can't answer that quarterback question, you're still going to be in the same exact boat they've been in for a long time, drafting in the top five, top 10. So I think everybody in that division stayed laterally. I do think the Dolphins got better only because they made some decisions that they had been leaning in the direction to making. And so they finally just did it. Um, Coming to the AFC West, The Kansas City Chiefs, who of course took a step back, and then Patrick Mahomes gets injured, they lost some pieces. They lost both of their starting corners from last year. They lost their starting safety from last year, although they did sign Aloy Gilman, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens. They did not add anything in the pass rush, but the scary thing is if they make it to tomorrow, hear me, if the Chiefs make it to tomorrow and they meet the league salary cap requirements, I think Trey Hendrickson is in play for the Kansas City Chiefs. I do. Unless he's off the board by the time I get done with this live, I think he is a prime candidate to end up in Kansas City. And then that makes them scary once again defensively, especially when you got um, Chris Jones already in house and Kaloftis still playing good ball. So we'll see. Um, because they wouldn't have gotten rid of some of those high end contracts and or guys who was going to require a lot of money if they didn't have something in mind. And then, of course, they did sign Kenneth Walker, giving them a legit threat out of the backfield, both between the tackles, up the middle, and out of the backfield as a receiver. So I think the Chiefs got better yesterday. They just now have to get healthy. When you look at the AFC West even deeper, I think the Chargers made some lateral moves. I don't know if they got better, but they do have a lot of money. And I think Trey Henderson could be in play for the Chargers. Now, I know they got some guys that they're going to have to pay in a couple of years, so they may not want to commit to something big. But I think he could be in play, especially after losing Odafe Owe, who went and got a bag from another team. So I think they stayed lateral. The Denver Broncos, they didn't get better or worse. And then when you look at the Las Vegas Raiders, I think they got better. Now, some people are clowning the Raiders, talking about their deal for Tyler Lindenbaum overpaying. But you know what? It's not an overpay if you can afford it, number one. Now, market value is an overpay, but if you can afford it and you got to spend the money anyway, you might as well make sure that you secure the guy that you want. And I think it guaranteed that they're going to be drafting Fernando Mendoza, as I previously stated. And so when you can have a young center and a young quarterback matchup, link up from the young quarterback's beginning, I think it could just be a great relationship. And here's the benefit, right? Tyler Lindenbaum know he got overpaid. Above anybody else, he know he got overpaid. But here's why I think it happened. If I reward you early with this overpayment, right? With this record-setting deal, even if there's not another center who gets paid like you in the next 3 or 4 years. Here's why I think they did it. I pay you up front for what you're going to do later. You see, if I pay you 3 years, 81 million now, I can pay you a little less because I've already done you a solid and paid you up front, basically. So now his next deal, when he'll just be 28, 29 years old, and barring injury, he'll still be, pretty good. Now I can slide him into that 3 or 4 year deal, bring him down to about 22, 23 million APY. Why? Because I've already maxed him out. I've already paid him up front. See, because you don't have a quarterback that you're paying. They moved on from Geno Smith, and they don't have anybody that I can recognize at the quarterback position. So it's going to be Mendoza, immediate starter. And I think they're going to look well being led by Kubiak, especially offensively. Um, I think that when you have Ashton Genty in the backfield, Brock Bowers, they added somebody, and I can't remember who it is. They added several defensive players. Those are all the moves you make to secure veteran quality players while you don't pay the quarterback position. If Mendoza goes number one, he's going to be making somewhere between $7 and $8 million a year, which is extremely cheap, and he'll be at that price point. But once you pay that quarterback, it makes it more difficult to spread your money around and build a broad team. And so I think it's smart that the Raiders have taken care of business, and I think they will still do that. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I mentioned Trey Hendrickson being available for the Chargers. I mentioned him being available for the Chiefs. But I think that if the Raiders write a big enough check, Trey Hendrickson could be in play on a short 2-year deal. They could do something crazy like 2 years, shoot, 75 million. Because Mark Davis don't care nothing about writing big checks. And then he's in and out. Come in, be able to get after the quarterback for a couple of seasons, help train up some of the young pass rushers, provide some leadership, and then he'd be out way before the quarterback has to get paid. Or even if you want to do a 3-year deal, he'll still only be 34 at this time in 3 years. So I could see him going anywhere in the AFC West. Um, so shout out to the Raiders, man, for getting up off the canvas. Now, let's go to the division we're going to talk about as we close out, the AFC North. Um, I think right now the Cleveland Browns stayed lateral. They didn't make any big moves, any moves that are going to be NFL changing. They're going to field a great defense consistently, and I think they're going to improve offensively. So I looked for them to make a couple of offensive signings, and then I looked for them to go offense a couple of times early in this NFL draft. But as of right now, Cleveland stayed lateral. When you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, nothing major. They did add Cook, safety from the Kansas City Chiefs, which is why the Chiefs signed Aloy Gilman. And I think they stayed lateral. I don't think he makes them better or worse. If anything, he makes them consistent on that back end. Seems like they signed somebody else. Can't recall right now. And then let's talk about the 1 and 2 spot. I think that right now, and I know Ravens fans won't have an appreciation for this, but I think right now the Pittsburgh Steelers are the best team in the division right now. Right now, I put them in the lead to win the division next year. And here's the reason why. Yes, they are missing a quarterback. Absolutely 100%. But it's a strong likelihood that with all they've done, Aaron Rodgers is coming back on a low end deal, probably 1 year, 10 million, 1 year, 12 million. If they got a little extra, they may give him 15 million. But I think Aaron Rodgers will be their starting quarterback week one. And what he's going to walk into is a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has an okay offensive line. They replaced Gainwell with Rico Dowdle, a 1,000-yard rusher from the Carolina Panthers. So the backfield is still going to be straight. They made a trade for Michael Pittman. They did not give up much to get him. So now you got two 6'4" wide receivers who can be animals at times on the field. DK Metcalf, still the deep threat. Michael Pittman, more of a possession receiver, make the contested catch, but still can get deep because he can catch the ball deep downfield. And then I look for them to add a wide receiver or two in the draft. So now they are in a position defensively where you have TJ Watt, may not be the TJ Watt of old, but still good. You still have Hayward in the middle. Derek Harmon should be healthy. You're number two. You still got okay linebacker play, and then they got better on the back end by adding Jamel Dean. And so when you look at this Pittsburgh team, they're complete. That's why I have to put them at the lead, even without a quarterback. They're complete because even if they did something like go get Kirk Cousins, all Kirk Cousins has to do is keep them on track. That's all he has to do. And so we understand that Mike McCarthy can call offense, and he'll probably call his own offense. And so I think that they are the most dangerous team in the AFC North, but not only in the North, but in the whole AFC. And then the Ravens, who I think is still right now in the second spot. Max Crosby is a stabilizer up front, a game changer up front for the Baltimore Ravens, but he can't save everybody from everything. With what Pittsburgh has done, they create a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins type of scenario where every play offensively could be a big play with those type of wide receivers. And so 4 times a year we got to go up with against those two tandems. And all we got right now is a light in the pants cornerback in Nate Wiggins. Incredible speed, but he's light. And it's been proven that he can get pushed around. So hopefully he comes in swole in 2026. Malachi Starks did not show ball hawking skills. We don't get turnovers on that back end, so hopefully Max Crosby helps out with that. We're not good in coverage from that second level of our defense with Roquan and whoever is going to be his running mate. And so um, we just got some questions. And so I think as I close talking about the Baltimore Ravens, I think a rebound of a free agency with all the talent that we lost is let's look into another edge rusher like a Bradley Chubb. Yeah, I know we got Mike Green, but hey, let's not put a whole lot of pressure on the second year player. Why not look at a Bradley Chubb on a 2-year deal, create a bookend scenario with Chubb and Max Crosby? Maybe. Why not look at a Jawan Jennings who could come in and immediately be that number 2 big wide receiver? I think who would be an upgrade over what DeAndre Hopkins brought to the table last season. Because although DeAndre Hopkins can make the miraculous, spectacular play, Jawan Jennings is tough. He has a little bit of an Anquan Bolden feel, although Anquan Bolden was just tough, right? And he could make the short catch. He can make the deep catch. He was just tough, man. He was just great as a wide receiver. But like Jawan Jennings has some of that mentality, and we haven't had that in a Baltimore Ravens uniform in some time. So I think Jawan Jennings, I think his contract projection ranges 3 years with an 18 million to 22 million APY. Um, Don't know if that's too high or too low for a guy who only had 55 catches and 650 yards, but I think that toughness and leadership is what we need from an offensive perspective. I think Jawan Jennings could be for our offense what Max Crosby should be for our defense. Provide leadership both vocally and with play and toughness and physicality. As I'm thinking about it, a guy like a Greg Newsome, cornerback who is good more in zone coverage than in man coverage, but still has good ball skills. He's talented, and he's a guy who's available unless he's been signed today. As I'm thinking, maybe a Marquise Hollywood Brown make a return. He's probably somewhere in that $5-6 million range. Maybe you can get him on a 2-year, $12 million deal, 2-year, $10 million deal to come back where everything started, maybe to right some wrongs. I think Declan Doyle could use another speedy receiver. Um, Let me see who else. Wyatt Tiller, last I checked, was still available. Let's not shy away from adding more offensive guard talent. Take the pressure off the rookie Emory Jones. Let's see. David Njoku, tight end, still available. Now he would have to take less. Another guy who's gonna be less APY than David Njoku is Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos by way of Seattle Seahawks. He was really good in Denver. He was okay in Seattle, and he's more of a receiver, but so was Isaiah Likely. So let's see. Hey, let's put our name on him. We just can't go to the draft again and say, oh, I think we can pull 2 tight ends out. We could, and I got 2 names in mind, but if there are some guys we can put our name on, we need to. I think if we're losing A guy like Keaton Mitchell, maybe a Rashad White from Tampa is a good option. Um, because I'm not ready to talk about the draft yet. So there's a lot of dudes we can put our name on that what about a Bobby Wagner at the linebacker position, right? A veteran. Now, he won't help out in coverage, not at this point in his career, but he could definitely help out in leadership. He's still playing high end ball. Maybe a Devin Bush, unless he's already signed. But I think we need a maybe a Logan Wilson, who the Cowboys released. He's a good ball player at that linebacker position. So a lot of dudes still available, man. You guys let me know, Baltimore Ravens fans, stand up. And then fans of other teams, let me know who you guys think have won the draft. Do you like what your team has done? And until tomorrow morning, we're out.